To provide some ideas and some food for thought on how a Los Alamos County SCADA system may look, we created some concept screens. These screens are all created within MI Studio. That is our drag and drop application building tool that allows you to create IoT, so applications for embedded systems, server, or cloud-based systems where you can deploy these applications directly to AWS. These applications are all built the same way. When we start an application, we have a design window here, and the palette at the top shows all the features that can be dropped into the design windows. So we have various components to build standard screens. We can also drop in images and indicators. We have a complete selection of what we call mimic tools, so pipes and valves and tanks with cutouts and various other components up here. What we strongly recommend for any new application is to look at the high-performance HMI components, and we'll come back to those as I look at the screens we've created. So what I've done here is I've taken an enunciator and dropped it on the screen. To do anything with this enunciator, what I need to do is I need to copy that to a diagram window. Every design window has what we call a diagram window associated with it. The design window is going to be the screen that becomes the web page, going to become an HTML5 web page. The diagram window is where I can build logic that's associated with these components. So here's my diagram window, and this is the same component with a representation on the diagram window. When I click on my diagram window, I start to see components that are more relevant for building logic type applications. That includes a complete suite of PLC components, as well as some IoT components and cloud components, the Amazon Web Services components. It includes components for alarming. It includes components for doing all sorts of operators. So I can do operations on data. I can do operations on time. So things like if I need to delay an event, I can do that. Boolean operators and string and array operators. The simplest thing to demonstrate is if I can just take a counter off the screen, and I can add that to my diagram window, and I can connect that with a single line to my enunciator, and we see immediately that the enunciator will start updating. The same basic approach applies to PLCs, that I take a component off a PLC tab and I can put it on the screen. The difference is it won't immediately start updating because we have the idea of simulation, because we don't want to immediately be writing to pumps and valves and whatever else in the field. But for the simulated components, it'll immediately start to update. And basically, once you have this concept down, drop the component on the screen, connect it to any component, then you have most of MI Studio. If I want to put in some logic associated with this, for example, if I want to add a scaling value to this, perhaps I want to multiply this by 10, I can do that. I can take that, multiply this by 10, and now I hook the manipulator into the middle of the loop, and now my display shows by 10. With this, you can build logic of almost any complexity, and with the designs from the screen, you can build almost any screen. So here I've taken, this is just a chart component. I take that and I can copy that to my diagram window, and there's I've been using the hotkey, but there's an edit, copy to diagram here. I can then take any component that produces values that I might want to plot, and in this case I'm going to take, again, a simulated value and just take that and drop that on the screen. Connect my line chart, and suddenly I'm seeing graphs on the chart. Graphs on the screen. Typically, these are used with database components so that I can store data to a database. There's a very convenient set of components for storing data to databases, retrieving data from databases, and manipulating any SQL database. So we can work with SQL Server, we can work with MariaDB, MySQL, and we have SQLite, which is a nice little database for embedded applications. So that's the basis of MI Studio, and what we've built up from here is we've built up some screens just to show you some ideas of what you might be able to do, what you might want to create. This one is a simple screen that just shows some of the high performance alarm indicators. The goal of high-performance HMIs is to provide as much information on the screen as clearly as possible in as little real estate as possible. So rather than having components that change maybe pink and blue and purple, you have a clear indicator that shows you the level. So you have a level 1 alarm, and that one's red. You have a level 2 alarm, and not only do the colors change, but you get the numeric indicator and you get the shape change indicator. So especially for somebody who might be colorblind, these become a very powerful tool. But also just look, even for somebody who isn't colorblind, just looking at the screen, you can see very quickly what the alarm levels are. Similarly, there's the idea of not just simply seeing what data we have right now, but also seeing what is our history data. And there are a couple of components that we use to do that. The sparkline is possibly the fundamental component of high-performance HMIs. And we can make this any size. So if we want to save screen real estate, we can make this into a tiny component, and it'll still give us most of the same information. And what you'll see here is not only, okay, so this is all good. Everything's been happening fine. But if 2 hours ago there was a blip in this, we would see that go off the scale. And we would see that even if currently this is looking to be a good reading. Similarly, we have the indicators, analog indicators. And what these will show you is not only the current value, and we have a small indicator that will show you the current value, but also they'll show you some history. So they'll show you the range of values that you would have seen, that you have seen for these values. So we see over here, we've seen this range of values on this indicator. And it's showing us, and it can show us the current values. So those are the fundamental pieces of high-performance HMIs, the goal being to get as much information on the screen as possible. And so we can drop these on any screens. We can create screens with the various components we have. I mean, you know, indicators are good, but you're also still going to have a lot of numeric values and just labels showing what's going on. But you can mix those in with indicators that show you history and show you alarms. So that's the basic idea here. We can, of course, do mimic screens. I don't have any here, but if you want to do images and make it look like the actual device, we can do that, but we don't recommend it for new applications. One thing that we can do is when we put on images, one value for images is, for instance, we have this map here, and we can display this map, and we can put indicators on the map so you can click and drill down to various components within the map. So as an indicator screen, you can start out with this map, and you can say, gee, I want to see the component that's at this dot. I don't have any dots on the screen, but at this particular dot on the screen, and you can click on that, and it will then transition some of the screens to show you that exact area. Once I've completed my screens, and I can build on my screens live within MI Studio and test them so that I have that added advantage. I don't have to deploy them to decide how they're going to work. I can do that all live within this application. We have what we call a target, which lets us deploy these applications. And that target can be, as we say, it can be an IoT device. It can be AWS Cloud. Here I'm just going to deploy it to my local computer. And so I just click Deploy to Target. And this takes, it depends on the speed of the computer, but it can take a minute or so to deploy, but not too long. When the deployment's finished, I get offered a window that lets me browse to my target. And so this will take me to the web page that has my display, and it's going to ask me for a username and password. To display that page. Now this is displaying the page we just built rather than the whole dashboard.